and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
Hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw.
The courtroom fell into a haunting silence. Cameras weren't allowed, but if they were, the footage would have broken the internet. A man stepped forward who the world only knew for his smooth vocals and hit records. But this wasn't the Usher Raymond you thought you knew. This wasn't about music, tours, or awards. This was about trauma, about secrets, about the dark machinery behind Diddy's glittering empire. At just 14 years old, Usher was thrown into the fire, placed in the belly of a beast that wore a suit and smiled for the cameras. But behind closed doors, there was another face, one that orchestrated rituals, silenced young stars, and ran a system of quiet control. And now, in federal court, Usher is pulling the mask off. With trembling hands and eyes full of buried pain, he recounted the nights, the parties, the locked doors, and the chilling truth about what Diddy's world really looked like. Viewer discretion is advised. This isn't hearsay. This isn't gossip. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony that could change music history forever. From one of Bieber's early team members, they said they couldn't reach him. He wasn't at the hotel. He wasn't answering his phone. Panic set in. Usher tried calling too. No response. Hours later, he found out Bieber had been seen at a private gathering hosted by Diddy. It was deja vu.
Man, you good?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything?
Yeah.
Starting to act different, huh?
No,
you ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Correct. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 55.
I felt sick, Usher told the courtroom, because I knew exactly what kind of night that would be, and I felt responsible. I brought him in. I was supposed to protect him from that world, not hand him over to it. The prosecutor asked what Usher did after hearing that. I confronted Diddy, Usher replied, eyes locked on the man sitting across the room. I asked him, what are you doing with him?
They're having the times of their lives, like, where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me.
He smiled and said, just giving him the full experience. Usher said he warned Bieber's team after that, told them to keep him away from Diddy, but by then it was too late. The influence had taken hold. Fame, power, access. It was a magnetic trap, and Diddy knew how to pull the strings. Usher's testimony then shifted to a conversation he'd had with a fellow artist in 2014, someone who had also been a teenage sensation. They bonded over their shared experiences in the industry, and when Diddy's name came up, the energy shifted. We didn't even have to say much, Usher said. There was this mutual understanding. That look in the eyes of someone who's seen too much said too little. Throughout his testimony, Usher never directly accused Diddy of physical assault.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it
Camp.
was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In
to
the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody
it was crazy.
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't
But
say
you
that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people
all
are
of
hanging
these-
around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
See?
But his words painted a picture far darker of manipulation, power dynamics, and environments where silence was the only currency that mattered. People say the industry is cutthroat, Usher continued, but that's not the real danger. The real danger is what happens when powerful people treat vulnerable kids like pawns. And we don't speak up because we're scared of losing it all, of being blacklisted, of being labeled as ungrateful or difficult. But the truth is, we were just kids. The prosecution then submitted into evidence excerpts from Usher's private journal and an audio clip of a phone call from 2003 in which Usher was heard talking with a close friend about feeling trapped in his contract and lifestyle. The final blow came when Usher recounted a night in 2015, years after he distanced himself from Diddy's inner circle. He was at a charity gala in Los Angeles when a man he'd never met approached him and handed him a note. It read, "We remember who spoke. Keep quiet." The message was clear. Even after all those years, the shadow of Diddy's empire loomed large. As the courtroom sat frozen, Usher took a long breath. "I've held this for decades," he said. "But I refuse to let it follow me into the next chapter of my life. Whatever happens to my career after this, I'm at peace with it, because silence is not healing. The truth is," he ended by turning toward the judge and the jury, "this isn't just about me. It's about every kid who got promised a dream and handed a nightmare. And it's about stopping the cycle." The room was still. Diddy sat stone-faced, his lawyers furiously scribbling notes. The air was heavy, the jury captivated. In that moment, it became clear Usher's testimony had changed the entire tone of the trial.
His children, 6 children, are in the courtroom at this point listening to all of this. And the jury was picked knowing that they needed a certain level of comfort to hear these types of descriptions. It was very emotional and really tough to hear, bro.
Is there any message for the alleged victim? Do you believe you apologize on behalf of your father? Do you believe your father's innocent? Do you still convince your father hearing that testimony? Do you apologize on behalf of your father?
No longer was this just about business deals, vague accusations, or industry whispers. This was now about accountability, about legacy, about the toxic rot hiding beneath luxury and success. And this wasn't over. Other witnesses were waiting, other stories still to be told, but one thing was certain: Usher Raymond had lit the match. The question now was, who else would step out of the shadows and into the light? And how far would Diddy's empire fall once the truth started to fully surface? Stay with Celeb as we continue to bring you the raw, unfiltered truth straight from the courtroom. Do you believe more artists will come forward now that Usher has broken the silence? And what does this mean for the music industry as a whole? Let us know in the comments. Because here at Celeb Glam, we don't just report the headlines. We expose what they're too afraid to print.